All right, everyone. I remember a couple of weeks ago talking about Michael Moore's new documentary, Planet of the Humans, and it's talking about how some leftist groups were really rankled by it because it insinuates that green energy is not perfect and holy. That's basically one of the sacred cows. One of the sacred cows of the left at this point is green energy. This is something that I myself support. I support the use of home solar, especially decentralizing the grid. I think it's great. It is economically feasible for the middle class, generally speaking. Wind power has benefits. Hydroelectric has benefits. And then nuclear has benefits as well. That being said, it's not perfect. Michael Moore dared to point this out. He is now being called a friend of the far right, and his documentary was banned off of YouTube. I'm not shitting you. Tim Pool covered it the other day, and when I saw it, it's fascinating to me. There are people now that are so far left that they think Michael Moore is now aiding, I guess, the Republican Party or something. He's become a Nazi enabler. The only thing he's pointing out is that there are poisonous, opportunistic groups within the left, number one, that capitalize, oddly enough, upon environmentalism. This is obvious. This is the exact counterpart of Che Guevara t-shirts at Walmart. This is the counterpart of a shirt that says "Buy American" but is made in Indonesia. Hypocrisy, opportunism, grifting, stupidity. If you're a real leftist, I would say, it makes no sense to support such overtures. You have to understand, not everyone who says, "Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven," so to speak. Not every person who expresses a view is authentic about that view. There are groups, lobbyist organizations, corporate firms, branding agencies, craftivists, groups like that espouse all sorts of ideologies. Like, I've gone after BreadTube. I don't even believe that they're actual leftists. I think the whole idea is to throw diarrhea at the wall, hope that a little bit of it sticks, and then slowly paint the wall thereby. That is, it's essentially, even if you only win 1% of the time, at least occasionally you win, and your core audience is so ramped up because all you do all day is have verbal diarrhea and insult people, you've got nothing intelligent to say, but they're not looking for intelligence, so it doesn't really matter now, does it? The same is true with green energy. There are groups within the green energy movement that don't really care about environmentalism. It's like the NIMBY bullshit carbon credit stuff. And I don't know if Michael Moore points this out in his documentary because I haven't done more than watch clips of it. The idea of carbon tax or taxes on emissions and so forth, all that does is take the same industry and put it in another country that doesn't care about environmentalism. There's no real environmentalist movement in China that isn't basically just a superficial, on-the-surface facade to cover up the fact that they are massively exploiting their resources. China's a wasteland of high pollution levels, and they say, well, we're going to plant 1 billion trees. That's wonderful. Maybe you shouldn't have cut them down in the first place. That probably would have been more environmentally friendly. Oh, you got massive erosion. Oh, the roads keep washing away. You get landslides all over the place, and the Yellow River is now a rusty red color. Who would have thought? Anyway, the other thing is this. You have corporate strip mining for raw resources feeding all of these so-called green energies. The nuclear nuts also, they really get me, and I doubt that he points this out in the documentary because I don't think he's a fan of nuclear, not without good reason. Whenever I bring up nuclear, I get the moratorium people screeching, but the loudest screeching comes from people who think we can't power the future without nuclear energy. Fossil fuel will run out, and solar is bad, and wind is not sustainable, and blah, blah. Dude, the uranium that's being used in the nuclear plant, where does it come from? They mine it out of the ground in great big open pit strip mines. Australia is the wasteland of Australia is much larger than it used to be because of this fact. You take a chunk of nice land and you burrow it all out until there's nothing there. Yeah, that does environmental damage. By the way, those machines used to mine the uranium, they use fossil fuel. So you still have to have fossil fuel just to get the uranium for the nuclear power. The ultimate goal is green energy made by green energy. Imagine a factory that's completely covered in solar cells cranking out solar cells. Imagine that you could automate the process. The mining machines were basically solar-powered drones or something like that. You could probably feasibly create something like that and have it more or less fully automated, providing electricity and energy for most uses at least, in that sense, and it would all be green energy built. The problem is it's not perfect. You never achieve 100% efficiency. You have massive strip mining operations, and you have opportunists. You have people who are just making money off of the idea of green energy. Again, selling some non-sustainable product like here's your plastic Chinese sweatshop 12-year-old 12 hours a day, 6 days a week iPhone case with a rainforest tree on it, and we donated 10% of the proceeds to some wildlife fund or something. That's not real environmentalism. That's feel-good, hippie-trippy bullshit for the soccer mom, gated community, middle-class trust funders. For the NIMBY people. For the people who have their quarter-acre, very, very properly manicured lawn with a housing authority in their area, and they don't have a garden. They wouldn't know how to grow anything if you asked them to. Worthless people, essentially. They want to be able to throw $10 at a cause and say, well, I did my part. No, you didn't. That's the whole fucking point. And for Michael Moore to get, number one, censored by YouTube over a false DMCA complaint, apparently there were 4 seconds of footage in the documentary, and the person who made that footage didn't like how Michael Moore used it. It's called fair use, asshole. The current copyright law allows Michael Moore, believe it or not, to do that. The fact that YouTube acts as judge, jury, and executioner on a video, this is a mainline multi-million-dollar production by one of the A-listers of shockumentary making, number one of the biggest liberal names of the 2000s, and had like, what, 8 million views on it, and then YouTube disappears it. You know, Michael Moore should become a spokesperson for alt tech. He should upload it to BitChute or something like that. Pop it on BitChute, put it on Library. Take it over to, put it on Dailymotion. They're French, so they don't care about U.S. copyright laws much. I mean, this is crazy, and they're calling him an enabler. Michael Moore, the far right. Michael Moore, newly minted Bush Republican. Michael Moore sells out because he pointed out the obvious. The obvious thing is that for any cause, you have people who grift and opportunistically use that cause to advance themselves. But they don't believe in it. They don't have any real stake in it. They don't care. They're not fighting for green energy. They don't care about the owls. They just care about selling shirts with the owl's picture on them so that they can get their 20% cut. That's what they want. And it destroys the world even more. And this isn't, by the way, Michael Moore will derisively call that capitalism. It's not. It's just grifting. It's nothing of value. There's no actual attempt at production or anything meaningful. It's not the sweat of your brow sort of thing that Michael Moore ironically stands for, which is my unions, those come from the working class. We were in a blighted working class area and I had to work hard. No. Yes, that's real capitalism that you're talking about. This grifting stuff that goes on is always highly centralized. And it's often politically motivated by an empowered group that gets taxpayer money. That's the other funny part about it. Some of it's outright socialist grifting. Grifting tends to be socialistic, or at least somewhere on the left, by the way. A very good coffee this morning. No, Michael Moore, Michael Moore, far right. Michael Moore, extreme fanatic. Michael Moore, the alt-righter. I expect them to have, like, you know, a protest and be calling Michael Moore a Nazi or something. Oh, man, wouldn't that be funny? He must be so confused, too. The poor dude. He's been, like in the Bush era, you know, when he was making, like, Sicko and shit like that. Oh, my God, he's a pinko, he's a commie. Wants to be socialist and stuff. Now they're calling him far right because he dared to question solar energy and windmills and stuff. It's so great. That's about all. Peace out.